On the phone, we have the pastor from my church, actually, Pastor Joe. Good evening, Joe. How are you going?
I'm doing really well, guys. Happy to talk to you on air.
Now, I'm going to quickly venture into your trip to Sydney. How was that, Joe?
It was great. I was on 6 weeks long service leave, and for some time, my wife and I've been planning. It's been on our wish list to do for so long, to just
that's great.
Travel and see Australia up close, and that's what we experienced now.
Oh, good.
It was marvelous.
Now, we're talking about the Australian Christians Party and the election from a pastor's perspective. Now, you're the pastor of Grace Reformed Church in Joondalup. Service time is 9:30, so head down there tomorrow morning if you want to, everybody. Pastor Joe, what is your observations about the election so far?
Yeah, well, my wife and I today served at one of the voting booths here in Ellenbrook. And we were there the whole day. And I was quite pleasantly surprised how 99.9% of people were very civil. Some people were friendly, others were, private about their
a bit secretive, but nobody was outright hostile.
Well, there was one or two incidences, but if you take what I'm glad about is that the majority, by far, nearly everyone was very civil, and it was extremely rare to see someone be rude or lash out at someone else. And we did have one specific incident where my wife handed a how to vote card as an Australian Christian supporter, and so, a guy swore at her, and that was just unfortunate. But my wife, she just composed herself and went on to greet the next person, and that was the end of that.
That's all you can do,
But it was a very rare thing, luckily.
It reflects great on Australia itself. I mean, we are quite the civil country, first world, as is. I mean, the American election was quite restless, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
But tell us a little, what are your expectations for the future government? Whether it doesn't matter what side it swings. What do you expect us to... where do you expect us to be in a couple of years?
Okay. Well, of course, my perspective is that of a pastor and a Christian. And then also I have conservative views on many matters. But I respect people who have more left-leaning views. And I think one of the marks that I'd hope we can see more of going forward is that no matter what our views are, that we can have civil debates. That's
discussions,
I felt has been eroding, especially on media platforms like television and radio. We've seen very vicious, hate-filled conversations where you kind of want to see more civil conversations, even if people are opposed. So I'm hoping that's something that we can do better going forward. From all sides of politics.
Well, I guess one thing is certain: the general media as we know it is kind of fading, really. So, newspapers and ABC radio and things like that are slowly losing interest, and people are more turning to social media, turning to YouTube.
You're spot on there.
So I guess a lot more people are actually listening to the debates. Obviously, they're silent viewers. You don't know about them, but I think there are a lot of people interested in listening to debate. And then all we really need is someone to actually do the debate. Doesn't matter which side which side are we on. The more points of view we had, the closer we get to the truth. So tell us a little bit. What do you have a voting recommendation list? Like what who's first, second, third? What are your if you were a party? How would you...
someone asked, yes, of course, if someone came to me and said, hey, Joe, we're just not sure what to do. As a Christian, what are you going to vote for? Well, then, for me, it would, at first, I've got an option in Western Australia. There's a Christian party, which it's not in all the states. But that's my number one vote, because I feel I want to, put a stamp on my vote. Even if it's a minority party, I am showing... to the electoral roll, I am a Christian. So that's my first vote.
But then at the end of the day, they're the flip votes, the small parties at the one or two seats, that can make the difference between a yes and a no when it comes to the House of Representatives.
And even if they don't get in, with our preferential system, it means my vote will flow onto the second and then third and fourth and so on until one of the bigger parties win. So, but they would then get over the line with the support of people like myself that are Christians, but they know that the Christians help them. If I just vote outright for the big party, then they would accept my vote and they would be appreciative of it, but it would be according to their values, not so much knowing that I'm a Christian. So I think that's why I would say my first vote is always for the Christian party or the closest aligned Christian party. Being a conservative, I then also put preference number 2, the Australian Conservatives, because I felt that they're very closer to the Christian values. And in the other states where we used to have Australian Christians, they joined the Australian Conservatives because they were so closely aligned.
Tell us.
Third was Australian farmers, fishers, because they are the farming folk.
Yeah, it seems a lot of people are going for them in their third vote. A lot of people are having them on their third vote on most of the voting recommendations.
Yeah, and then the fourth was the Liberal Party. Which is of the two bigger parties. They are the ones who would encapsulate more conservative viewing people. When it comes to things like abortion or euthanasia, those kind of big things.
Well, tell us a little.
The conservative ones have a more closer biblical alignment.
Well, tell us a little. Some core tenets of the Christian view, the Christian ideals that people would have, or that you think people would have. What are the kind of the basic axioms of what constitutes a vote for someone? What would they need to nail?
Yes. Well, things a Christian voter would look for if they have the same convictions as I do. One is, of course, that the unborn have a right to live. So we are
pro-life.
Pro-life viewing people. That's one of the things. We are also pro-life for the elderly. So we're not very supportive of euthanasia, though we understand the argument. We think palliative care is a much better way of honouring someone's life.
Generally,
that's another thing.
Generally there's good arguments on both sides. Even for something like abortion, you can see why someone thinks something. But at the same time, as Christians, we do believe life above all else.
And that's kind of like, sometimes I might personally think, there's a good argument for a case like euthanasia, but my Bible weighs more than my argument or your argument. The Bible is clear that we shall not take a life. It's one of the great commandments. And then it doesn't matter how I feel about it. It's overruled by your convictions. Clear commandments of God.
So, besides the pro-life, for the elderly and for the unborn, what else? Something like free speech or
family values. And when I say family values, we mean things that when the traditional role of a family, where there's a mom and a father and children.
The atomic family.
And also we were very worried about things like when Safe Schools program was being rolled out, which on the surface seemed really good, but when we looked under the bonnet of that car, and we looked at what's driving it, it was sidestepping parents. It was sidestepping traditional views on marriage and sexuality. So of course that's going to become a big thing that we would also swing our vote.
Because at the end of the day, schools should teach kids how to go into their jobs, not that their life lessons is up to the parents. I'm very strong for the idea that the parents should be more involved with their kids, and we should probably enable them to do that.
And not sidestep the parents, because there's one ironic thing in that is that when my kids were in the high school, they were in a state high school in Ellenbrook. When they wanted a Panadol tablet, they phoned me first. The office would phone me and say, can they give my children Panadol tablets? But if my daughter became pregnant and she held it secret and she wanted to go for an abortion, they wouldn't ask me. They would just, there's scope for them to simply take her and she would get it done and not involve me as the parent.
Yeah.
So there's a discrepancy, and those are things that undermine traditional family values.
Yeah.
And I think it's like kind of you're touching a nerve when you touch on those things.
Yeah, that is true, yeah. Well, what of the two major parties, which would you rather have leading? Obviously, you said you'd have the Liberals as your fourth tick box, but do you have a comprehensive reason for them over the Labour?
Okay. Let me give you one short, funny one, and then I'll give you the more serious answer.
Yeah, shoot. We're all for a bit of comedy.
Yes. Now, of course, Liberal would be the preference by far. Scott Morrison is a dedicated Christian. That to me is a big uptick. Yes. But just on the funny side, when handing out voting cards today, I looked at the cards being handed out by Labour and by the Greens. Yeah. And both of them put the Australian Christians at last, number 10, and Labour had us at number 9. So they do not support Christian values. Yeah. And it just shows. So that's the funny one, or the ironic one. Yeah, on a kind of what you'd expect. Note, the Labour Party has won support from a lot of left-leaning people who are pro-safe schools, pro-abortion, pro-euthanasia. So on those fronts, it just seems like a natural camp for Christians to lean towards the Liberals. Yeah.
Well, Joe, it's all we had time for tonight. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, it was great.
It's been a great pleasure, and I hope we can do it again sometime in future.
Oh, definitely.
Speaking of which, I am interviewing Pastor Joe, I think next Saturday, so it's not the last time you're going to hear Joe on the Youth Jam Radio. Joe, thank you so much.
Yep.
So grateful for you guys. God bless you guys. Keep up the good work.
God bless. Thank you, Joe.
Enjoy the rest of your day.